Hello, I'm Lara Kocharsan and this is Newsfeed, your dose of what people are talking about online. A new US-backed peace plan for Gaza is being formed, but it is already drawing criticism. Palestinians are excluded from the top decision-making bodies, with their role limited to a technocratic committee managing basic services. It was established under Trump's 20-point peace plan and backed by the United Nations. Under the proposed structure, political and financial oversight would sit with an international board of peace. Beneath that is the Gaza Executive Board, which is responsible for regional and operational coordination. And at a lower level is the Palestinian Technocratic Committee, called the National Committee for the Administration of Gaza. It is responsible for security coordination and restoring services, such as electricity, water, healthcare, and education. Meanwhile, Israel has pushed back against the plan, stating that it was not fully consulted. At the Board of Peace, the top tier, there are some confirmed members, including Marco Rubio, Steve Witkoff, Tony Blair, and Donald Trump. Trump will serve as the board's inaugural chairman and approve its membership. Washington says more names will be added soon, including from Turkey, Qatar, and Egypt. For now, Gaza's future is being shaped largely by foreign actors.
Well, at the top, of course, is Donald Trump, who's been a full partner in Israel's genocide. Next to him, Marco Rubio, a lifelong cheerleader for sending U.S. tax dollars to Israel to crush the Palestinian people. Then there is Trump's billionaire envoy friend, Steve Witkoff, who brings real estate know-how to a site where countless Palestinians are still buried under the rubble. Add billionaire's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who bragged that Gaza's waterfront property had great development potential. Then add Wall Street billionaire Mark Rowan, who is chair of New York's United Jewish Appeal and a major donor to AIPAC-backed candidates. Then the World Bank president and U.S. Deputy National Security, two men who I'm sure are very sympathetic to Palestinians. And finally, Tony Blair, whose lives helped launch the Iraq War, leaving millions dead and an entire region destabilized. So there you have it, the Board of Peace. Trump has appointed a group of Palestinian technocrats to do the day-to-day dirty work, but it's the foreign billionaires and the war criminals who are in charge.
But let's be clear, this is not about peace or Palestinian liberation. Are we really ready to sit alongside Tony Blair? Are we forgetting Iraq? Are we forgetting that Larry Ellison, founder of Oracle, one of the biggest donors to the IDF, also funds the Tony Blair project? And Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, who continually prioritizes Israeli interests and who is only ever concerned with extending his property portfolio. But you know who's missing from that lineup? Palestinians. Not a single Palestinian will sit at that table, not one. This is classic US behavior. Destabilize a region, then come in under the guise of cleaning up and rebuilding infrastructure, spread peace and democracy, while US corporations cash in on the destruction that the US created in the first place. It happened in Afghanistan and Iraq, and it's happening now in Palestine.
And Trump may be complicating matters further. Reports say a $1 billion contribution is required to remain on the board beyond 3 years.
World leaders are now showing caution on Trump's broader Board of Peace amid fears for the United Nations.
According to Bloomberg, Donald Trump has told countries that if they want to serve on the Board of Peace for the Gaza deal that he executed, they will have to pay $1 billion to be permanent members. And here's the kicker. Guess who would control all that money? The president himself, Donald Trump. Several nations, according to Bloomberg, have opposed that charter completely, saying this is completely unreasonable. They're worried that what Donald Trump is trying to do is build a rival to the United Nations, one that he would completely control himself. So while Trump is advertising the so-called Board of Peace, most regional countries are actually not on board with it at all. But take a minute and just let it sink in for a second. He wants every country to pay $1 billion to him, practically, that he will control, that he could help build out his own version of the United Nations.
Europe won't be blackmailed. That's the message from Denmark's Prime Minister as tensions escalate over US President Donald Trump's threats of sweeping tariffs unless Greenland is handed over to Washington.
Europe has reached its breaking point with the United States of America and with Donald Trump, a historic moment in American-European relations as for the first time in a long time, Europe is no longer a friend of America's, or rather, vice versa. Europeans want to potentially end the US-EU trade deal that was recently executed by Donald Trump. We learned that the French president is calling for the, quote, bazooka option regarding tariffs as Trump imposes increased tariffs. Right now, the US-European relations are really at a recent low, a significant low. And every single European leader, from Italy's Prime Minister Meloni, who is arguably one of the most conservative European leaders, to Macron, to Starmer, and more, they have all come out against the United States of America. And it's all over the push to annex Greenland, which is a territory of Denmark, one that if the annexation was successful would invoke Article 5 and would be the end of NATO.
The pressure escalated over the weekend after Trump doubled down on his threats.
In a social media post, the US president claimed NATO had warned Denmark for decades that it needed to deal with what he called a growing Russian threat to Greenland, adding that Copenhagen was unable to do anything about it. He ended the post with a warning. Now it is time, and it will be done. That comes after Trump threatened to impose 10% tariffs on exports from 8 NATO allies starting February 1st, rising to 25% by June unless Greenland is handed over to Washington.
Europe is now considering its response. Its foreign ministers held emergency talks on Sunday, discussing retaliatory tariffs on around $108 billion worth of US goods. French President Emmanuel Macron has urged leaders to activate the EU's powerful anti-coercion instrument, the so-called Big Bazooka, which will allow punitive measures on US cars, industrial goods, food and drink. The standoff follows recent European military deployments to Greenland. They were a largely symbolic move, said to be reinforcing NATO's presence and signaling support for the island. Greenland, meanwhile, has firmly rejected any takeover, pushing instead for deeper NATO-led defense cooperation.
We are not interested in being Americans.
We are here for show Mr. Trump we will have Greenland to the Greenlandic and not for the United States.
We are worried and just want to be ourselves and live our life here.
And we want to keep it that way.
Danish and Greenland have to get together and don't fight.
Things are heating up in Minnesota as the US president threatens to invoke the Insurrection Act and deploy active soldiers to the state. Tensions are running high as clashes between immigration officials and locals continue. There have been sustained protests after an immigration agent shot and killed Renee Nicole Good earlier this month.
About 1,500 active duty soldiers are currently on standby for a possible deployment to Minneapolis. That is what defense officials are stating to ABC News, and let's break this down. According to the ABC report, this defense official confirmed that troops are coming from the 11th Airborne Division based out of Alaska. This announcement comes after just yesterday we saw the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, announce that he is mobilizing the National Guard, not activating it, but mobilizing it. Though I need to note that both sides at this very moment have not been given an order to be activated on the ground. Though if the National Guard is on the ground, they'll be wearing yellow vests. You can be able to distinguish the difference between them, ICE agents, and the US military. According to the Pentagon, they state that the military planners are preparing options in case President Trump does authorize the use of active duty forces, and the Pentagon's chief spokesperson says the Department of War is always ready to carry out orders from the commander-in-chief if called upon. Of course, if they are activated, this will be a major escalation in the things that are taking place in Minneapolis.
Since Good's shooting on January 7th, there have been daily protests against Trump's crackdown on immigrants and officials' heavy-handedness in Minneapolis. Officials say they're targeting the worst of the worst. But critics insist innocent migrants with no criminal records and US citizens are being detained. As the Trump administration steps up immigration raids, support for the Minneapolis protests are pouring in from across the US.
Hey everybody, I just wanted to say I am so sorry for what is happening in Minneapolis and our country, really, but specifically Minneapolis right now because it's where I shot my last stand-up special, and everybody there couldn't have been more lovely. I shot it there because they say it's the happiest city in America, and I found that to be true. So my thoughts and my prayers are going out to everyone, and I'm proud of everyone who's protesting peacefully, and I am sorry for anyone who has been hurt just for protesting.
And to the people in Minneapolis and the surrounding cities, shout out to you. You are doing God's work right now. You are heroes on the right side of history. Don't ever let anybody else tell you different, bro. And if you're outside the cities, or if you're in a different state completely, take note, bro. Because ICE, if they're not already there, they're most likely going to be in your city sometime in the next, 5 months.
Meanwhile, things didn't go to plan for right-winger Jake Lang. His attempts to hold an anti-Islam, anti-Somali, and pro-ICE demonstration in Minneapolis were quashed at the weekend.
Minneapolis City Hall will be burning Qurans, standing up against the Somali invasion of Minneapolis. These people are animals. Look at them. Look at them. Anchor baby, violent migrants.
As protests continue in Iran, activists hacked the country's Badr satellite and broadcast a message from exiled Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. Several Iranian state channels that broadcast through the satellite ran the message from Pahlavi. In his statement, he called for protesters to continue pressuring the government and for the armed forces to side with demonstrators. Sunday's broadcast is said to have lasted 10 minutes. Protests began at the end of December over the rocketing cost of living and have since grown into anti-government demonstrations. Thousands have been killed amid a digital blackout, making it difficult to assess what's exactly happening on the ground.
Meanwhile, a network of Iranian doctors have said or been claiming that there is closer to 16,500 to 18,000 protesters that have died as a result of this. There's also another organization called Iran International and other allied sources that have claimed at least 12,000 deaths, but I've even heard reports of up to closer to 20,000. We may never know the real answer to that. Additionally, there's also been somewhere around 18,000 to 24,000 reported arrests that have been reported by groups like HRANA, with many facing charges like enmity against God, which can carry the death penalty.
Frozen, cut off, overwhelmed, and waiting for the storm to pass. That's Russia's remote Kamchatka Peninsula. Life has nearly ground to a halt as days of relentless snowfall bury towns under meters of snow. Many of the drifts are 3 meters deep, but in other areas, they climb as high as the 4th floor of buildings. We leave you with some striking images that's got the internet talking.